Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the unsung shapeshifters of the English language, pronouns. We're going to discover how these tiny, everyday words secretly manage meaning, establish context, and even shape modern identity in our daily communication. Let's get right into it.
We've got a great lineup for This Explainer. We'll be covering the power of substitution, meeting the pronoun family, looking at semantics and context, dodging those pesky grammar traps like who versus whom, and finally, exploring evolution and gender identity.
All right, part one, the power of substitution and why we actually need pronouns.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. What if we literally didn't have pronouns? Imagine a conversation where you were forced to repeat every single noun every single time you referred to it. You would honestly lose your breath before you even finished a quick story.
Take a look at this concept. Sarah loves fashion. Sarah announced that Sarah wants to go to fashion school. It's incredibly clunky and repetitive, right? But by simply swapping out that noun for she, so Sarah loves fashion, she announced that she wants to go to fashion school, we save ourselves from total repetitive exhaustion. It instantly makes the sentence elegant. Pronouns are basically the ultimate cognitive and linguistic shortcuts.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that a pronoun needs an anchor. In grammar terms, this is officially called an antecedent. It's there so the listener knows exactly who or what you're actually talking about. Without this antecedent, a pronoun is just, well, a word floating around without an identity. The antecedent is what gives the pronoun its temporary meaning.
Moving on to part two, meet the pronoun family, structural types.
You know, pronouns aren't just one messy, monolithic group. They actually fall into several distinct structural categories based entirely on their grammatical function in a sentence. Each type has a very specific job to do.
So beyond your standard personal pronouns like I, you, they, or she, our linguistic toolkit is actually huge. We've got possessive pronouns like mine or ours to show ownership, reflexive ones ending in self like myself. We even have demonstrative pronouns for pointing things out like this or those. Add in relative, interrogative, and indefinite pronouns, and you've got a seriously versatile set of tools at your disposal.
Okay, part three, semantics, meaning and context.
What's really fascinating here is how pronouns rely on context to do their heavy lifting. First up, we have anaphoric pronouns. These are the ones we use all the time. They look backward to an antecedent we've already mentioned. So if you say Sarah lost her keys, that word her points right back to Sarah. It maintains the flow and coherence of the text without missing a beat.
Conversely, we have cataphoric pronouns. These are kind of fun because they look forward, teasing the noun before it even arrives. For example, it was clear that he had done something wrong. The it is actually referring forward to the entire clause that he had done something wrong. It builds a little bit of linguistic suspense.
Then we have dictic pronouns. These are entirely dependent on the speaker's specific physical context or spatial location. Imagine someone holding up an object and saying, "This is my book." If you can't physically see what they're holding, that pronoun means absolutely nothing to you. It's completely tied to the immediate situation.
And finally, exophoric pronouns. These point to completely external entities out there in the world that haven't been explicitly mentioned in the conversation at all. It's like gesturing to a group of strangers across the street and stating, they are going to the park. Again, this relies entirely on visual cues and the shared reality between you and whoever you're talking to.
All right, let's get into part four, grammar traps, who versus whom.
We've all been there, right? If you've ever paused mid-sentence, suddenly wondering if you should use who or whom, you are definitely not alone. It's basically the ultimate trap that grammar nerds love to correct. But thankfully, there's a very structured, straightforward way to solve it, so you never have to second-guess that professional email again.
Here is the simple shortcut. Who is the subject of a sentence. It takes the place of subject pronouns like he or she. Whom, on the other hand, is strictly the object of a verb or preposition, taking the place of object pronouns like him or her. So, a great memory trick? If you can answer the question with him, you use whom. They both end in M. Boom. Problem solved.
Another notoriously tricky trap is choosing between that and which. The secret to this one, it entirely depends on whether the extra information is essential or non-essential to your sentence based on the clause types.
You're going to want to use that when the detail is absolutely necessary to identify the subject. For instance,
The pizza parlor that is down the street is great. We need to know exactly which parlor you're talking about. On the flip side, you use which when you're just dropping in bonus, non-essential background details, like my mom's jewelry was stolen, which upset her. Her being upset is just extra context. The main point is that the jewelry was stolen.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Evolution and Gender Identity.
Language is a living, breathing thing, constantly shifting. Today, the singular they is widely recognized and used as a seamless, concise, and gender-neutral alternative to he or she. In fact, it's now commonly embraced as a default catch-all pronoun across major style guides and digital platforms.
As our Grammarly source highlights, and this quote really hits the nail on the head, language is constantly evolving, and new types of singular third-person pronouns have emerged that refer to people entirely without reference to gender. This is a perfect example of how language adapts to serve the communicative and descriptive needs of the very people using it. And because language is inherently systematic, modern neopronouns like a, z, and z adapt right into our existing grammatical matrix. They neatly form object, possessive, and reflexive versions exactly like traditional pronouns do. For example, z as a subject naturally becomes them in the object form, zire as a possessive adjective, and zemself as a reflexive. It's a fascinating look at how grammatical structures easily adapt to accommodate new vocabulary.
So, as we wrap up, remember that pronouns are far more than just simple placeholders. They are dynamic, highly structured tools of human connection. Looking at these historical and modern shifts, it leaves us with a pretty big question. How will our language, and specifically our pronouns, continue to adapt to human identity in the next 100 years? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. The next time you speak, pay close attention to those shapeshifters hiding in plain sight.